since Freud and then Jung proposed the now established model of the iceberg psyche, a conscious, glowing white top, a bulky underwater subconscious, mostly visible and always accessible, and a dark, vast unconscious, so deeply hidden that we hardly ever feel its presence directly. The world has come to accept that each of us consists of those three layers: active awareness in the foreground of our mind, memories, emotions, and verbal skills readily accessible in the background, and below it all the unconscious, with its subliminal urges such as sex and aggression according to Freud, or the elusive shadow self and mythical archetypes as old as humanity according to Jung. The job of the Freudian therapist is to bring those unconscious elements to the surface, where the conscious psyche can deal with them and heal its wounds. The Jungian therapist is more concerned to reconcile or moderate the conflicts between the conscious and unconscious in order to achieve a kind of mutual acceptance and balance. Consider, by way of contrast, the story of Yusuf alayhi salam in the Qur'an. His youth and beauty attracted first the wife of the noble in whose house he was a slave, and then a party of her licentious friends. He was faced with a dilemma. Should he give in to them and become a sex slave to a gaggle of lustful women, or draw back and seek a higher way? Many of our problems in life are stark moral choices such as this. But what would psychology say? Would it tell us to explore our inner potential, to discover our shadow self, as Jung would call it? Or to liberate ourselves from the super-ego's repression of its sexual urges, as Freud might advise? قال رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه وإلا تصرف عني كيدهن أصب إليهن وأكن من الجاهلين. Notice here that his attention at this crisis is not directed towards the three layers of his psyche, but to the transcendent power that can reorient his entire being from top to bottom in an instant. The power to make decisive, life-changing ethical choices is God-given, while fine-grained analyses of our dark side, done on our own self-centered terms, may just leave us with our inclinations intact among the ignorant. By surrendering to our base desires or the whims of others, we can lose what makes us responsible to our better self, to our intellect, and to God. There is little in the Qur'an that resembles modern psychology's static, diagrammatic representation of the psyche. A Qur'an reader looking for a system that could be compared to Jung's murky speculations or Freud's famous division of the self into ego, superego, and id will be disappointed, seeing only an occasional analogy or extended simile. There are mentions of a commanding soul, an accusing soul, and a tranquil soul, but these three terms occur in three different contexts. They are not gathered together to form a structure, and they are more likely to be consecutive stages in spiritual development than concurrent divisions of a personality. What we have instead are dynamic metaphors and an emphasis on action rather than analysis. It is as if the Qur'an is telling us that our obsessive defining and classifying are just acts, and that other acts are more virile and worthwhile. Euro-American style self-dissection only works with people accustomed to think comfortably in pseudo-scientific frames, and only since the late 19th century. Psychoanalysis has been going on for over a century now, and our society, with all its supposedly self-confident individuals, is sicker and more dysfunctional today than in the pre-Freudian era. Rather than inventing mechanisms that help us peer into ourselves, we can just unblock our channels of divine reception and transmission. Whatever pattern the iron filings of our mind have taken, we can always return to the divine magnetic field of our original nature to straighten out the kinks in our personality. فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Why is this approach healthier and more uplifting? Because it is dealing with the sublime, not the subliminal. The imagery is optional, not essential. It could be light, or rain-bearing winds, or a strong and upright tree. But the spirit of the message should be the same. Islamic psychology, if there is such a thing, should be focused not on the detailed self with all its minor faults and foibles, but on the Creator who directs and transforms not only individuals, but communities and entire nations in one go. This is why so many verses in the Qur'an conclude either with something like Wallahu bikulli shay'in alim, bringing our attention back to God, or with a purposeful action such as in لِتُنذِرَ قَوْمًا مَا أَتَاهُمْ مِن نَذِيرٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. These actions typically involve awareness and insight that you might ponder, that you might remember, that you might be rational. Whatever you take yourself to be, God is calling you to Himself or to the highest function in yourself, your capacity for thought, memory, and imagination. Allah sets the goal and offers you His way as the straightest path to Him. If methodical introspection or psychoanalysis motivates you and helps you find that path, then you might well add that to your spiritual toolbox. But should we be setting up a new system called Islamic psychology? We can consider that in video number 12, God willing.